Welcome to 6 Million Seeds. I'm Meryl.
And I'm Carrie.
And today we have our guiding light for this season, Alia Sweis. Alia is a friend of mine. I know her from elsewhere. And she is also very interested in changing her way of eating to improve her health. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Alia and what her goals are. And then we're going to work with her for the rest of the season and maybe longer, we don't know, to see how she does and support her in her journey. So excited. We're so glad you're here, Alia.
Welcome.
Yes, so exciting.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
So wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So what kind of made you decide to change your way of eating and lifestyle now versus, maybe like a couple of years ago? Or was there anything in particular that caused you to make this decision now?
Yes, I had what I call a reality check. I did a biometric screening about 6 weeks ago, and it came back that my glucose is 100 points over the normal average. And like my biggest fear happened, which is I've been avoiding being healthy. I've gained weight. I've just been living, even pre-pandemic, this resigned kind of life where, and what I mean by that is that I'm very busy at work. I'm a very successful person and I emotionally eat. And whenever it's time to work out, I just say, yeah, right, I need to work or rest. And I just don't give myself that time. And when I got that screening that I've been avoiding for 5 years, that was the reality check that something needs to shift in me.
Wow, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Congratulations.
Yes.
We applaud you. Better now than never. And now is always the right time. Always, always. Very cool. Great. All right. So questions we have for you, darling.
How long or how have you been eating now recently? Have you been eating somewhat plant-based or not so much? How has that shifted since you made the decision to change your eating habits?
Yeah. So what was so perfect was that as I made the decision, I entered into my lentil fast for religious reasons. So this is like the first time in many years to which I actually honored the fast and ate primarily plant-based and fish within the last 5 weeks of the fast. So by being like what I call woken up, like the reality check, it brought me into plant-based lifestyle. So I've been dabbling in it, not 100%, maybe I would say 60-40, 70-30, and that on the heavier side, plant-based.
Okay. Have you noticed any changes since you started?
The first thing is I'm surprisingly full. Like I didn't think I would be full. I was worried I'd have to eat more. I have more energy and I'm more, in terms of my digestion system, I'm more balanced.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah. That probably has a lot to do with the increase in fiber in general. Fiber is a big thing and we can talk about that for hours. We won't right now. But fiber is one of the most important things, nutrient, even though we don't really digest it, that we get from plants. And the fiber is food for the healthy bacteria that's in our gut, right? And that helps with the whole digestion and all that good stuff. So yeah, 100% of the time people notice some effect to their digestive system once they start eating plant-based, for sure. I have a question. Tell me, what goals do you have for yourself? What would you like to get out of this relationship that we're developing here?
Some of my goals is the education side of plant-based, because when you look at like the ratio of the plant-based macros and the percentages, at first glance, it looks really heavy in carbs. And so it's really understanding the makeup of the genetics of the plant-based diet in relation to the current diet where I'm eating animal protein and carbs and fat, oftentimes separated, and understanding that difference. The second thing is really getting away from the mainstream of having to eat animal protein. I grew up in a culture where you are always eating animal protein. Eggs for breakfast is like a norm. You know, it's that societal conversation and breaking that conversation into something more healthy, more innovative for my lifestyle. The other thing is really being able to sustain this diet over time. How do I sustain it? I have a few. Number 4 is what is good and what is bad in terms of plant-based.
Good.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Because, you know, I can go to the food store and it looks great, but how do I decipher what is good, what is marketing for my body? And lastly, really being able to get my health and fitness in order, my goal to reduce the 100 points of my cholesterol and to lose weight. I say 60 pounds, but let's go for 100 pounds. Let's do 100, 100 and go for it.
I
Yes.
love that. Oh my gosh. I could cry. It's so great. That is so, so great. Everything that you just brought up is totally attainable without counting calories, without counting grams of carbs or grams of protein. You can let all that diet math go.
Yeah.
Really. So yeah, you are, as we say, in the right place. Yeah, really, really good. Really, really good. Now, I know too, you mentioned something about maybe wanting to have a baby.
Yes. So that's the other thing, is that I'm looking at my legacy. I'm currently 42 years old, and I do want to have a child in my 40s and have a child healthy, not having to be on medication from conception to birth.
Yeah. Also totally doable. One of the people that we will be speaking with actually has a lot to say about what we call preconceptual health. So that'll be a very interesting episode.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to that. All right. Do you have any questions for us?
I guess the question that I have is that you mentioned, like, you don't have to count calories and even the macros. And that is so exciting, and it scares me at the same time, because I'm so, again, ingrained with the various diets, hiring trainers, my FitnessPal app, you know, all of that is all over the place. So you're surrounded by it, right, as noise. So anything you can say to that in terms of how is the plant-based without counting calories versus actually counting the calories to lose the weight, because by math, you have to have a caloric deficit.
Right. So you want to answer that?
Yeah,
one?
for sure.
Okay.
So I feel like I've been in that same boat before. I have had personal trainers that, you know, tell me the breakdown of carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And now that was before I was plant-based, and now having been plant-based for a few years, it is different. It's a different way of thinking of it. A lot of the foods that you would eat for protein are going to be also higher in carbs. So you can't necessarily tease out, okay, I'm eating this for carbs, this for fat, this for protein. A lot of them are intertwined, which is also one of the benefits of eating plant-based, because all of the fruits and vegetables have all 3 components together. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. But one thing I would say, in terms of, you know, having a calorie deficit, I think thinking of it in terms of calorie density when you're eating plant-based is helpful. If you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, they're going to be lower in calories, but much higher in nutrients. So if you fill your plate with mostly fruits and vegetables and grains, you will naturally have a calorie deficit versus having to cut calories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. The other thing I would add to that, in totally agreement with what Carrie's saying, because there's so much fiber in the food that we're eating, it really does fill you up pretty quick. Like you were saying before, you feel more full, right? And you could have a whole lot of salad in your belly multiple times a day and be really full all day long with very few calories. And what Carrie was saying about calorie density, calorie dense foods are more like oils and meats, cheeses, where it doesn't take very much to bump it up to 1,000 calories or 500 calories, right? It doesn't take much. I think a tablespoon of oil is like 400 calories or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? That's very calorie dense. Whereas if you eat an apple, that's like 100 calories, but it's got so many other nutrients.
Yeah.
Right? We call that nutrient dense. So that's kind of the plan, or what you're going to aim for, is the more nutrient dense foods, and you'll steer away from the calorie dense foods. You can eat apples till the baby apples come home. Another question people have sometimes is about proteins. I'll lay that one to rest now too. Beans and rice, or beans alone, broccoli, spinach, almost all vegetables have protein. And our bodies don't have to. Okay, so I'll tell you, when I first started eating this way, I was 15 years old. And that was back in the day when we were told that we had to combine beans and rice, or a legume and a grain, to get a complete protein. That's the only way that it would work. And so I grew up eating that way, right? These days, research shows that you can eat those foods separately. You can eat beans in the morning and rice in the afternoon, or tortillas at night and beans the next day, or something like that. And your body will still combine all that you need to get adequate protein. So you don't have to worry about those kind of macros, counting grams of stuff. There's no real documented cases outside of like bulimia and anorexia of people who have protein deficiencies.
Yeah, as long as you're taking in
adequate calories.
You'll
get adequate protein.
Great.
Yeah.
I do have one more question since we're on this, is why do we have such a negative connotation on carbs, right? Because automatically I went to, it's heavy in carbs. It's like this thinking we have. Why do you think that exists in our society?
You want to go for that one?
It's a good question.
Afterwards.
Yeah,
these are great questions, Alia. These are such great, perfect, very common, really great questions.
I think some of it comes from just the misinformation out there. A lot of people think that, high carbs is going to lead to diabetes or other issues. And it's not necessarily the carbs that are the problem. It's the fat and, animal protein and dairy that is causing the signs of diabetes, like the insulin resistance, that people attribute to carbs. Now, not all carbs are created equally. You have refined versus complex. So it does matter which type of carbs you're eating. But if you steer towards whole grains and plant-based carbohydrates, they're perfectly fine. You can eat plenty.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's also some terrific marketing that we are subject to all day long on radio, TV, social media, very powerful marketing. So something I learned not too awful long ago is there are only 10 companies that are responsible for most of the food supply in the whole world. And a lot of those companies are ones like Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, and all their subsidiaries. Unilever is another one. They're amazing. And they work very hard to make these products palatable and yummy and addictive. And you can't deny them because nobody eats only one potato chip. Right?
Yeah.
And their marketing is very, very powerful and well geared to keeping us engaged. So what Carrie is saying about refined carbs versus complex carbs are all day long. That's apples and beans and whole fruits and whole vegetables, grains. It's the refined carbs that cause us the problem. It really is. And it is not only that they're refined carbs, which is part of it, but they're usually associated with sugar and fat and other chemicals and additives and preservatives and things like that cause the body. They just challenge how we work our system. Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is what I want to share with you and everyone listening, is that I really hope my journey through this with you and with everyone listening really inspires a change in who's listening, in our lifestyles, or people around us, really impact that change. Because, getting that wake-up call was not fun, to say, oh, my cholesterol's over 100 points. And when I broke it down to look at the triglycerides and other aspects, they all point to being overweight and the food that I'm eating. And the second thing is really breaking free how I was raised, the cultural norms, the societal norms, even how the food industry has made it marketable, how things should be when you eat. And, growing up as a child, I was told you have to eat animal proteins or your menstruation cycle is not going to be complete. Like, you're messing up your ovaries. Your body won't be able to have the actual process because you don't have that animal protein to make that work in sync with your body. So I'm really excited to break through all of that and really be able to eat healthy and lose the weight and make that difference for everyone listening.
So beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you,
powerful.
Alia. That's just great. Yeah, definitely. Wonderful. Well, thank you again and again, and 1,000 thank yous again. And we will be joyfully with you on this journey.
Yes.
For sure.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you next time.